had that glow. You know, the one you have when you meet the love of your life at a wedding in Hawaii, and he wants to make you his forever. The one you have when you know that nothing can go wrong at 36. Well, it only took 3 little words to dim my light. I felt like I was jumped in a game, given these colors, the color pink. I soon learned there was nothing pretty in pink. Managing the ebbs and flows after a breast cancer diagnosis was never ending. Our life together was just beginning, but we had no future in sight. I'm now standing here in my chemo glow, willing to share my moments, because I soon learned that the glow doesn't define me. I define the glow.
I'm sorry, dear. You're muted.
All right, guys. Been muted the whole time. Wonderful. This is definitely going to be a laid back type of situation. So I'm going to go ahead and start over again where I tell you, hi, guys. Welcome to Chemo Glow, where the glow doesn't define me. I define the glow. Guys, I want you to subscribe. I want you to get on our YouTube. I want you to look at Facebook, like, and share. Please share and follow and subscribe, and also check out our podcast where available. You know, I always talk about people sharing their glows. And guess what? chemoglow@gmail.com is where you can share your glow. Next week, we will have our author on, Lauren Candace Tarplay, Type A Guide to Cancer. She will be doing some book giveaways, readings for her amazing book, and I can't wait to actually sit down and read this book with her. I've already read it, but we've already picked out some things that she has talked about, and it is so amazing. Now, I want to talk about someone who shared their glow last season, which was Cassandra Casanova from episode 7, Life is Meant to be Lived. Guys, she met the guest that we're featuring tonight because she was sharing her glow. And I'm so excited to bring Miss Cassandra in. Come on in and join us. Hey, and we're going to make sure we unmute you too. Let's see. Unmute that mic. I don't know why we're having technical.
She muted herself. Everybody stop muting themselves.
Can you hear
All
me?
right. I can hear you.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Hello. Good evening, Cassandra. It's just one of these chemo glow days. I feel like I'm having a chemo like fog right now.
It's all right.
It's all good. Cassandra, so I'm so thankful that you are on tonight because I am able to meet this wonderful woman who we talk about healing through ink. Tell us a little bit about your experience with her.
So, as you know from my previous podcast, I am a cancer survivor. Thanks to COVID, my cancer journey extended well beyond what I had ever anticipated. Surgeries were pushed out. Reconstruction was delayed, but I know a delay is not a denial. So I was able to complete my reconstruction journey after 2 reconstructions. And then I was ready to get my areola tattoo done. And I had known someone who got theirs done by a plastic surgeon. They had an artist on staff in the doctor's office who perform those tattoos for them. Well, again, thanks to COVID, they no longer had that person on staff. So to me, as being a cancer survivor during this journey, that is completion. You know, you look at yourself in the mirror as a woman, you just don't feel whole. You're missing something, obviously. So when I went and I was like, okay, Dr. LaFlave, now I'm ready. Everything has settled perfectly. Things look great. I'm ready. And he goes, oh, well, you got to wait. We don't have anyone. And I'm like, what? You don't have anyone? So they give me
Wow.
a piece of paper with like 4 names on it. And they are like, these are some people that, you know, other patients have used, you know, look through them and pick out who you like and just go and get a consultation with them. So I did, you know, some research and I looked through some of their portfolios and I came across Haylo Healing and was very drawn into Hayley's work just based on a lot of the detail, a lot of the coloring. Her location was awesome for me. And when I called, I was very comfortable with her. So I called, I made an appointment for a consultation. Very professional, very creative, laid back environment. I felt welcome from the onset. Her studio is very nicely put together. She took me into a private room. She took her pictures of me. She showed me some of her previous work, and we were ready. Like, I didn't need to see anything else. I was like, let's do it. So, you know, they went to schedule me an appointment, and the appointment that I think the scheduler had picked out for me was well far off. And Hayley was like, no, we can get her in sooner than that. So she moved some things around, put her here, put her there. So I was super excited because after 2 years feeling incomplete I think my appointment was like 2 weeks out from the day of my consultation. So I was
Really?
like, yes, it was. So we set everything up and I went in for my procedure. I'm gonna call it a procedure because it's just a tattoo. But when you so used to everything dealing with your breast being a procedure, that's what stuck in my mind. And I have tattoos. So I'm very familiar with the tattoo and the tattoo process. And you know, I ain't no slouch, but a tattoo hurts. So I did have a little bit of anxiety. So we kind of talked through some of, you know, what I could do for some of the anxiety. She has a very open space. She left it completely up to me as to if I wanted to have my tattoo done out in the open where the other artists may or may not be tattooing other clients as well, or if I wanted to go into a closed off location. When you go through breast cancer, you know, Regina, you lose all humility. It's
You
just
just
like
show it to everybody.
everybody does seen them at this point, so let's do it. So I was like, you don't have to move anything. We can do it right here. Her color matching was perfect. I was pleasantly surprised at the discomfort from the tattoo. You know, I had worked myself up that it was going to be this horrible, horrible, painful thing. It was not. I barely felt a pinch. Hayley did do some touch up on my natural breast that remained. That was a little bit more discomforting, but still not terrible. And when she turned me around, I was a woman again. Because for 2 years, I looked at myself in the mirror and I did not like what I saw. And to go to her studio, and I'm emotional because it's a journey, but to see 2 perfectly round breasts with 2 areolas, and it was done in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I was completely amazed. And she will be coming on to talk about what she does. What she doesn't know probably is that the work that she does is life-changing. And that is why when you reached out to me to put this together and get her on your show, I was all in because look at me, I'm a mess now just because for so long you struggle with what you see. You don't like what you see. I went through a very, you know, messy divorce. We talked about that on my last appearance. So to be a woman of a certain age trying to get back out there.
Yeah.
And I don't have to say anymore. but that completion she gave me, and I am eternally grateful for the work that she does in her gifted hands and her calming spirit. She is just amazing.
I haven't even met her yet, and I've already planned my tattoo that I'm gonna get all over, front, back, all over. We're gonna do it all. And I remember telling you, once you get that, it's healing through ink. That's
It is.
exactly what
It
it
really
is.
is.
When you pass that mirror, you're not turning away from it anymore. You're
Right.
like, whoa, okay. And like
Absolutely.
you said, you're always lifting your shirt up, going through all of this. And after 2 years, finally being able to actually be okay with what you see in the mirror.
That's
Because I
right.
remember you at the very beginning. So I am so happy that you connected me with her. And just by talking to her on the phone and through email, I was like, okay, I'm going to get to Charlotte. I'm going to have to leave the kids here and take a weekend and get on her schedule.
Yes.
But Cassandra, I'm so happy that you actually introduced me to her. And I want you to stay on, just get in the backstage. I'll make sure that we figure out the mute button and get you back on. And
Okay.
that way we can chat. But I want to talk about the young lady that's going to come on now. Thank you so much, Cassandra. I'm looking forward to this young lady joining us. Like I said, Chemo Go Live is about healing through ink. Hayley is drawn to the bohemian textures of life. Guys, when you see her studio that she's sitting in right now, you will understand what I'm talking about. It's all about freedom, beauty, truth, peace, love, and rock and roll. I love it so much. Please welcome my guest, Miss Hayley. How are you doing? Let's unmute you. You might have to unmute yourself over there.
All right.
There we go.
You hear me now?
I am doing well. You got my girl crying over there. Like, Cassandra is one of my dearest friends. And I told her that tat was going to make a difference. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Cassandra has me crying over here also. It really is such a blessing to me to be able to do this work. Not only the regular tattoos that I get to do and be creative and make people love their body parts in different ways, to be able to do that completion part for women who have experienced so much pain and the traumaticness of even just discovering that you have cancer and you have to go through these steps. It's just grateful every day for the opportunity, and it's a really nice extra facet to my tattoo work. Dr. Harper especially for kind of joining forces with me and inviting me to be the main person that he sends his patients to.
Yeah, when we were in the backstage, I see he has a whole sleeve going on back there.
I know. Yeah, he came to me for some realism, one of my specialties, and so it's been a nice way to just translate what I already know as far as doing portraits and realistic work to this, to really being able to make sure that they feel like that's what I used to look like. Most of what I used to look like as possible.
Yeah, and how long have you been in the world of ink?
I'm having my 20th anniversary this year. 2021 marks 20 years as a professional.
Wow. Okay, and is the tattoo world a male-dominated world?
Absolutely. Certainly when I started back in the early 2000s, there was, I think, maybe one female artist that I really knew of. And it has shifted. It has certainly shifted over the years. I work in a studio and have set up this environment to have an all-female staff. So I've got 4 other wonderful women that I work with, artists, and I think we're changing the game a little bit.
There you go. And you open your doors when? Was it 2015?
Yes, right. January of 2015, I opened up Haylo Healing Arts Lounge just to really make sure that I'm crafting the more comfortable environment and more compassionate type of tattoo experience.
Yeah, and everyone that I talk to, that's why we have so many panel guests. Everyone that I talk to just talks about your healing spirit. And I so love this. And you told me before we got on that if I'm coming on, can I please bring Dr. Harper on? And I was like, yes, you can. And I want to bring him on now. I want to make sure that everybody sees and hears everything that he has to say, because Dr. Harper, he is healing through ink with his collaboration with, and I am so happy that he is joining us tonight. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Hey.
Hey, can y'all hear me? I think I'm unmuted.
Look, you're unmuted.
Good, wonderful.
This is going to be laid back, right? It just is what it is tonight.
yeah, very, very laid back, and thank you for having me, and I appreciate Hayley for inviting me and connecting us all through this, because I think it's it has a lot of power, and it's great to get the message out to women that they can feel whole again, and that this process doesn't have to be negative, that they can use it to become stronger and look even more beautiful, which is up to Hayley and I.
Yeah. So where's your practice located? Tell us a little bit about your practice.
So I'm in South Park. So we have 2 plastic surgeons. My partner does not do breast reconstruction anymore. He's a little senior to me, but I trained at Emory University in Atlanta, and it's just a kind of a breast mecca. And so we had really wonderful exposure to some terrific mentors there. Everybody kind of continued to keep breast reconstruction as part of their practice. The older plastic surgeons there did. So it was great to see how they kind of never let that go. It's kind of common practice for some of the older plastic surgeons to get into kind of strictly cosmetic business and not continue to kind of provide these services, because the more time you have behind you, the better you are as a surgeon. And so you don't want to take that away from the community, the opportunity to do beautiful work. So I moved here in 2012. I was not tattoo naive at that point. And I just remember seeing some 3D nipple tattoos. At that point, it was really just kind of being talked about and presented at kind of random symposiums, but it really hadn't taken flight. And I said, well, I'm a plastic surgeon who has tattoos. That's probably not too common. And so I was just kind of, similar to Cassandra's story. I was seeing nurses that were in plastic surgeons' offices, and they were kind of taking weekend courses and learning how to do some tattooing. And I was like, wow, that's really neat. But there are some legitimate artists out there.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Like Hayley, who I didn't know, but I literally asked maybe 4 people who had really beautiful sleeve work, or at least work that I could tell. And I just said, hey, I'm new to the community. If I wanted to send a breast reconstruction patient somewhere to get just an incredible tattoo, who would you send them to? I mean, I was asking wait staff at places, one guy at like a movie theater, all sorts of different people. And like the first 4 people said Hayley's name. And I was like, well, I got to check her out. And at that point, she was in NODA at Thews and hadn't opened up her own thing. So I just kind of touched base with her. And said, hey, here's the deal. I'm new and I want somebody great to do this, because these people deserve perfection. They deserve the best. They don't deserve a nurse who, I'm not trying to cut them down. I'm sure there's some that are great, but they're not Hayley. And so she just kind of took the idea, and there was no hesitation. There was no kind of second thought. I mean, she was like, yeah. And so, it only took a couple patients into it that I felt like it really started to fly off. And then my plastic surgery colleagues kind of started asking me, look, who are you sending people to? And so, I kind of had to call Hayley and say, look, Hayley, I'm going to give your name out to everybody, but my patients get preference. And so I don't know if she's still sticking to that, but she definitely still makes me think that she is, which is pretty smart. Right.
So look, that's all that matters, right?
Right.
That is all that matters.
The perception, that's correct.
Yeah, everyone that I have talked to has said that about her environment going in. Even with me, I had a nurse do mine, and I I didn't even get the same type of treatment when I was talking to one of our guests that's coming on a little bit later, how she said, well, they set me up, took a picture of it, said, hey, do you like it? Yeah, I didn't get all of that. It was like, okay, here's the colors we have. They might not quite match, but this is what we have, and this is what we're working with. They actually end up turning out pretty beautiful. But it was more of me saying, we need to add a little bit. It was me being like more into the process. I need a little bit of this and I need a little bit of that. And I want to come back again. So I felt like I was advocating to have, you know, what I consider perfect, because I look like Edward Scissors hands, you know, we're cut up, we have all this scarring. And like we were talking beforehand, how it matters where your scars are, where your incisions are, just in case something goes different. So talk a little bit about that, about knowing, asking those questions and seeing a plastic surgeon before you actually have surgery.
Yeah, so, you know, a lot of people don't know what the law states, right? And in 1997, they passed the Women's Health Act. And what it basically did is it told women that from a breast reconstruction standpoint, that insurance companies had to cover it. And they had to cover work on the contralateral, the non-cancer side, if a patient only had one breast operated on for symmetry, right? And so you're covered for the rest of your life. Like, this is something where, you know, I get women who come in and they say, oh, you know, I had surgery, you know, 20 years ago, and I've just kind of thought this is how it had to be. And there've been so many improvements through the years, right? Better implants, better technology, better tattoo artists that are part of the team now. And it's like, you know, to see the look on their face when you say, you don't have to settle for this. Like, this is, we're okay. You're covered. You know, there are codes that the insurance company has to respect from this, and let us, you know, kind of take care of it. Now, part of the issue, and I think your viewers should know, is that, you know, sometimes when the nurse, you know, took a couple courses and they were doing this, you know, they could somehow kind of use insurance codes and do all that kind of stuff. And what I told people was, you know, Hayley, as not being a healthcare provider, you know, she is out of pocket. And so what I've told people is, like, Hayley's not making money from these. She loves this. And so she's trying to cover her costs. She does a ton of these pro bono, which she'll yell at me for telling you that, but she does. And she's awesome. And it's like, you know, pay a little bit of money out of pocket and get this perfect. I mean, Hayley, even, I remember when she called me and she said, hey, you know, I'm getting these patients and that's awesome, but, like, do you have any before pictures of what the coloring of their areola was? And I was like, duh. Like, of course I do. We have all these before pictures. So, you know, my patients take that to Hayley now, and she's done all sorts of things. I mean, yes, she's done nipple areolar complexes and they look like they're just coming right off the breast. But I mean, I've had patients that have seen her for floral designs. I've had patients who have done, like, lingerie bras that she's done, that have made, like, websites for, like, you know, top rated post mastectomy stuff. And she can do anything and all.
And
so,
I have a couple
whatever you need, she'll do.
I have a couple of pictures of some stuff here. Can you tell me what this is, Hayley?
Yeah, so this is what I call the Areola Renewal. It's a realistic nipple and areola tattoo. I work with the patient to, if I got before pictures, I definitely go with that. I try and do, you know, at this stage of the game, they get to kind of make their perfect nipple, right? So we get to choose the size. Oftentimes, Dr. Harper will place the nipple and then come back as well, and we might make some minor adjustments. I get them to make some movements and just make sure that they feel absolutely sure that is where it's going to land.
And then we have another picture here, which you were just talking about. This is beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, this woman, she is a 70-year-old woman, and finally, after some 30 plus years, got this tattoo work done.
Really?
Wanted to have more fun with it, you know. She's like, after all this time, I don't I don't need a nipple. I just want to have something that makes me smile.
It has a boy. I gotta go back. It has a butterfly on it. Oh my goodness! Is that a bumblebee? I love it.
Yes, a little bit.
I absolutely love it. One of the ladies who is in the backstage who's coming on talked about how you just freestyled and she was just there in your presence and you did everything to make it happen. Now, one of the things I want to talk about is a flat closure. Dr. Harper, do you do that as well?
So I will. But I really don't like nipple areolar reconstructions. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One is that you are recreating a little bit of projection of the nipple, but you're having to rob Peter to pay Paul. So, you know, where we want the most roundness and the most projection from the breast is at the areola, at the point of the areola. So if you're having to take some of that skin and turn it back around on itself, you're really going to flatten the most projecting part. And the more scars we have in that area, I think Hayley could probably comment on this better. You know, the harder it is for the ink to be taken up in that kind of that scar. So if I can leave her as close to like pristine, untouched, non-scarred tissue as possible, the sky is the limit for her. So, you know, I tell patients this, and this may sound bad as well. I have so much faith in nipple areolar tattooing and the work that Hayley does that I don't do nipple areolar reconstruction, which from a financial standpoint really pays almost as much as the breast reconstruction and takes about 30 minutes. So like a lot of doctors are like, what are you doing? I mean, this is a great little procedure where you can have a good revenue generator. And I'm like, because it looks bad. And I know that Hayley's going to make it look so much better that there's no need for me to kind of muck it up and do anything that may interfere with her ability to get the exact tone or the exact, I mean, if you go back to her nipple areolar pictures, I mean, there's like shading, there's like, you know, the white that she uses in there to do the little Montgomery glands. And it like, I literally have people, when I show them pictures like this, they are freaking out. I mean, they're just, they feel so much. And I show them this before surgery when I know that they're not a nipple sparing candidate. And the glow on their face, not to like hijack your word, is like, is unbelievable because they're like, oh my gosh, it's not my grandmother's mastectomy that like scared the hell out of me. Like I can be beautiful again. And if we do it right, for the majority of women, you can have a prettier shape to your breast. And like Hayley said, you can have the areola you always wanted. If it wants to be a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, everybody floats their boat different ways. So whatever you want,
you can have.
You can have.
Yeah.
That's right. Have it your way, right?
When the doctor does do the fake nipple, we call it, might be a little extra scarring underneath there. Sometimes it flattens out anyway, or one might be.
It does.
So
so it's not sometimes. So it is 100% over time going to lose its projection. And they've tried to use all sorts of little dermal fillers and dermal tissues, and then you're getting Juvederm injections or whatever it is to try and get some more projection. And it's just adding layer upon layer of scar and scar and scar. And so I personally just feel that from a cosmesis standpoint, from what looks the prettiest and the best, is again just giving Hayley as much wonderful, you know, untouched, unblemished, unscarred tissue to then kind of work her magic. It's a far better recipe for a successful kind of closure for these patients.
Yeah. And before we move on to the next guest, because you guys are going to both stay on the screen, because this one is your patient, but I wanted to talk about when you do get someone who has a flat closure, which I'm just learning that this breast cancer community is so different. You have so many different people. I found out that I was a unicorn at one time. I don't know if you've heard of that. When you just had one, I was like, oh, is that what it's called? I had no idea.
I didn't know that either. I didn't know that either. That's new to me.
I'll use that.
I found that out last week, and I was like, well, okay. It was a lady from Canada that I was talking to. She was like, unicorn. I was like, what is that? I only have one boob. And I was like, oh, great. I was there for like 2 years. But when you do have someone who has decided not to receive implants, you still do some very beautiful work.
Thank you. Yes, and there's, the topography there is definitely something to work with. I always try and utilize the shapes and the curves as best I can. It's really kind of mind-blowing how many different varieties I see based on the different surgeons as well. And I do have to say that Dr. Harper's work is some of the most pristine and smoothest and cleanest that I have seen.
Well, since we're talking about smooth and clean, we're going to go ahead and bring Michelle on and let us know about how smooth and clean her surgery went and her meeting you and what that was for her. Let's see if we can unmute you right there.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And
thank you for coming on. Tell me about your experience first with Dr. Harper.
Okay. Yeah. So Dr. Harper was my plastic surgeon, and he is phenomenal. I was someone at work. I'm a nurse, and someone recommended him to me. He had done work on another nurse, and so just from the beginning to the end, everything was wonderful. He made sure that everything was nice, smooth, his calming attitude just made me feel so at ease with everything. And after I had my first procedure, I had the results. They were great, and I told him I liked it. It was fine. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was fine. And he said, I don't like fine. He's like, I want perfect. So we went back and had another procedure done and tweaked it, and everything turned out amazing. And when I was first there, I was asking him, about the tattoos. I said, can I see some pictures? He brought me in his office and showed me some before and after pictures and told me about Hayley, and said that, Hayley was his tattoo artist. And I knew right then and there, I was like, I'm definitely, I told my husband, I'm like, he had a long
literally, she's my tattoo artist.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, perfect. So I knew right then and there, I'm like, I'm going to have her do my tattoos no matter what.
Yeah. Well, tell me about the concept of your tattoo, of your nipple, what you did to make it all, because you can have it all at Hayley's now. She's going to make sure that you have healing through her art. So tell me your process.
Yeah. Well, so when I first went to, when I first went to Hayley, I, had a consultation with her.
You just went out. Did you? Can you guys hear her?
I can't hear her, but I can see her.
I can see her, but I can't hear her at all.
Blame it on the
Time to bring the husband in. We're good.
This is our Halloween show. I just want to.
Yeah. So do me a favor. Sign out and sign back in. And then what I'm going to do is bring Benji in, if you don't mind. If you're ready, let's unmute you. I want Dr. Harper to stay on, and I want Hayley to stay on. And we're going to go ahead and bring Benji in while Michelle, you're going to step out, sign out, and come back in for me. Let's see if we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Thank you for signing on. Now, I don't think Dr. Harper was your surgeon at the time, right?
He was not, but I'm not sure he would have wanted me during that time, unless you want to deal with a very ornery, pregnant cancer patient. You didn't want me, just.
Now, have you had a lot of people in your practice that have been pregnant at the time of their diagnosis, Dr. Harper?
I don't know about a lot. You know, it certainly adds to the complexity of things. I feel like I did have maybe one or two throughout my career. So, and I forget exactly kind of where they were in their pregnancy, right? Because that kind of makes a difference. It's not like you can give chemotherapy or do something besides kind of surgery for those patients, right? And a lot of times, if there is a lumpectomy or a removal of tissue that needs to be done, it's done through local anesthetic, right? Or like a regional block. You don't want to put a pregnant woman under general anesthesia if you can avoid it. So there are, you know, the stories sometimes that you hear of people early on in their gestation that you know, go 7 or 8 months with a cancer diagnosis, and really what you're trying to do is just kind of minimize the risk that this cancer will leave the breast and go somewhere else, and literally, you know, kind of live to fight another day. So, but I wouldn't say that it's common, or at least it hasn't been common in my practice. But I would have taken an ornery pregnant patient and at least brought you some comedy or some comfort through that. We have a pretty good time in my office. So, okay, good.
Absolutely.
Well, Benji, when I talked to you about Hayley and her Healing Art Lounge, you said that she made you, and I quote, a badass.
It did. And still doing
it. And she's still doing it. Now, Benji, you had a 4-flat. I don't know, Dr. Harper, if you do that in your office, but you were one of the first ones.
I was the only one in North Carolina to have a 4-flap reconstruction because I did not want implants. And I did not want to keep the other breast. It just didn't make sense for me to have to go every 6 months to maybe have something. So we decided that in order to get enough fat to put in that location, we needed to do a 4-flap reconstruction. So they took the meat from the back of my thighs, underneath my buttocks, my belly, and wherever else they could find it, squeezed it out, put it in there, and that's what made my current C-cups ish.
Yeah, and I have a picture of them. I must say they're pretty nice.
They're a nice pair. Yeah. Especially after Hayley's work.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And so doing that that's not common, the 4-flat, pulling from different areas. Did you have tattoos done in those different areas that she pulled from, that your surgery was?
Yep. Every scar that was created from that surgery or those surgeries now is completely tattooed.
Wow. Hayley, how was that working on someone that you knew that she had to go through that to get, you know, her C-cup, right? How was that? I mean, was that your first time working on something like that? First and only, I think.
Yes, I had seen, they call it deep flap. It's just the belly, taking the tissue from there. But being the first one in North Carolina, I was really kind of excited that she was willing to get so much tattoo work done, and that she allowed the freedom of some freehand design work. So everything that we did below is also reminiscent and flows with what we did on her breasts. And her personality is so fun to work with. I love every part of her. And
well, you worked on almost every part of her. I'm going to go back to this picture here, because when I was talking to Benji over the phone, she said she came in. Well, go ahead and tell me your experience when you walked in the door and she started freestyling on your chest.
Oh, sure. So I think the appointment was a few months in the future. So we hadn't seen each other for a while. She saw me, I saw her. She looked at her notes and she goes, "Oh, now I know." And I was like, let's do it. And she freehand, and again, you've been naked for tens of hundreds of people for so long, you have no inhibitions, right? So I just got naked, showed her, she started at the top, she drew it, I looked at it, yeah, that looks fantastic, let's go with it. And within 4 hours, that top part was done.
Wow. And you
And
have
that's how,
stars. No, you have diamonds.
yep, diamonds and swirls. Yeah, diamonds and
Yes.
swirls.
And you said that is her personality. Hayley, she said that was your person, like the diamonds, the swirls, the freaking. Walking out of there, how do you feel, by being touched by Hayley, that healing ink?
It was tears. So imagine being a young new bride mother, right? I think me and my husband had been together for 3 or 4 years. We had 2 kids together. I was pregnant with the third when we found out. So it was literally, 8 weeks into the pregnancy where my OBGYN was like, you've got cancer. Going through all that. And, there's a lot of tears, a lot of having to have conversations with little people about what's going on, and then having to rehash that every time they see you. Not being able to feel comfortable naked, right? Like, this is my husband. I want you to enjoy me as much as I enjoy you, right? So there were some personal moments where I really felt like I needed to do something to make me feel more beautiful. Not that I hadn't gone through a lot and I didn't, I deserve to be that, you don't rest in that and just move it. You go beyond that. And so after leaving, first of all, when we took the pictures, I was standing there naked for a minute, just, her and I and everybody else in the room. And it was a freeing experience. And I can say that after taking the saran wrap off, let's just say after day 4 or 5, and you walk past a full length mirror, which I don't have a lot of those, and you go, oh my God, that's me right there. And, oh, that's so cute. And you're sharing it with your mom. Like, you're going like this to your mom. You're going like this to your aunts. You're in the restaurant throwing down look at what I got. Look at this. It makes you feel so much better. And the scars are still there. You just, it's something that now I don't see them as often or as much as I used to. So it's really great.
It is beautiful work. I'm telling you, I'm going to be coming down, and Dr. Harper, I think I need to come see you too. I live because my lovely surgeon is no longer practicing. She's practicing here in North Carolina, so I definitely want to make sure I look good in my clothes as well as out of my clothes.
Yeah, in your clothes isn't good enough. Right.
Yeah,
and that's what we kind of say, because we all have mirrors. And, like Benji said, like, we don't want this to be something that changes your lifestyle. We don't want it to change your ability to be intimate, to feel sexy, to feel like a whole person. And that's kind of genuinely, that is what patients that come back after the tattoo, they're so very thankful. And they were thankful for the reconstruction, and it's great. But like, it is a different skip in their step when they're coming back to my office to show me Hayley's tattoos, right? Michelle's a perfect example of that, right? And and literally my assistant, Lindsay, who's been with me for 7 or 8 years and has also been tattooed by Hayley. We literally, every time we see it, we're just, it's so impressive. It's such a huge part of kind of bringing this all to a good, happy kind of conclusion. And I'm just thankful that Hayley kind of took the ball and ran with this, and that she really just has been the biggest proponent in the tattooing community in Charlotte that I'm aware of. And, you know, she used to, she's very sought after. If you are trying to get her for just kind of a standard sleeve tattoo, you're going to wait a year. And I have friends that go see her because they've seen my tattoo and they say, oh, I got to wait a year. And I'm like, well, you're going to have this forever. So wait a year. And then I tell my breast reconstruction patients, just tell Hayley that I sent you. And you're in. It's so great. They get in so much sooner. So then my friends who want a sleeve are like, can I tell Hayley that I'm a breast reconstruction patient also? And I'm like, no, you're a 45-year-old bald man. You can't tell her.
You can't do that.
It's got to get on to you. Yeah. So it's not going to work.
Well, I want to bring Cassandra on, but as we're bringing Cassandra in, I want Michelle to go ahead and tell us about your process.
I will. So sorry about the snafu there. It was my cat. What happened?
Look, I was muted for the first part of my segment, so. So, Michelle, tell us about your process and what you did with Dr. Harper and with Hayley to come up with what you love right now, what you're showing your nurse friends right now.
Yes, I am. Yes, yeah. So I had the consultation with Hayley, and I remember, going in there and asking her. I was like, is it right before I went? I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even have like a picture of before. Your mind is just so, foggy and cloudy. You can't really think clear. And, I remember texting Dr. Harper, like, I don't know, like a day before. And I was like, do you have any, pictures? And like 10 minutes later, ding, I got the pictures right away, of my, before surgery pictures. And so I went in and showed Hayley. I was like, are you able to work with this? And she's like, yeah. And then as the time went on, I started thinking, when it got closer, because I did have to wait several months because of another procedure and everything. And so I thought, I really would like to incorporate, I have 3 daughters. And so I was like, I'd like to incorporate, my 3 daughters into the tattoo, somehow. So I asked them all if I could take a picture, of each of their areolas, and they said yeah. So they all sent me. They're in college. I had them send me the pictures, and then asked Hayley. I was like, "Is there any way you can incorporate all of that plus my, old areola, into one?" And she's like,
"Former, don't say old. Former.
Yeah,
don't say old, Michelle." Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I can. So it was amazing because, even when I got there, well, so first of all, then I went to Dr. Harper and he, marked the places where they should be about the size and everything because, you're just not thinking straight this whole process. So then I went with Hayley and we kind of I could have gone to a private room, or I could have been out in the studio, and I'm in a bathing suit a lot, on a swim team. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fine out here. We check different things. I'd go over to the mirror, come back. We're like, no, let's move it just a little bit, and she's got this snazzy way of, just kind of peeling it off, putting a new little, thing on. And we went back to the mirror, maybe just, a quarter of an inch, and she was so calm and so patient because I'm thinking, I wanted to work with it. She's like, it's going to be perfect for you. And then we had like an iPad there, and I had told her, I kind of like this color, and I like the shape of this daughter's, and I like the way this looks here and there, and sure enough, she has her iPad there, and I had sent her all the pictures. And she's got a picture of each of my girls, and then my former Areola, and she worked it out beautifely. And I just lay there, and she talked to me the whole time, like distracting me. Like Cassandra was like, "Oh gosh, this is really going to hurt," and it didn't. She talked to me the entire time to distract me. We talked about stuff, and next thing you know, she's like, "Okay, great, we're done with that one. Let's move on to the next one." And then when I went over to the mirror, it was I mean, absolutely. I mean, completely completing. Like I can't even describe. Like I did not even realize that I didn't feel complete until I went over to the mirror and I was like, oh my gosh. And like I told Regina, I was like, every day for weeks and weeks, I felt like such a freak. Every time I walked by the mirror, I was like lifting my shirt up, just like the mirror. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. This is amazing. It's perfect. It's perfect. My husband's probably crazy because I kept telling him, it's perfect. Everything is perfect now. Everything. So it was
I'm sure if we wasn't on live, all of us will be like, hey,
yeah.
I wouldn't, Regina. I wouldn't be doing that. No, I'm going to keep my shirt on. We're good.
But I do want to say that I have a friend that is going through the same thing, and she had talked to, a tattoo artist about putting a tattoo on, and they don't do consultations. They don't, talk to you about what you want, what you like. You literally just go and they determine how everything's going to look and put it right on you, and I even clarified, I'm like, oh, is this like an actual tattoo person? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, no. I'm like, you need to go to my tattoo, artist. I'm like, she's wonderful. She takes her time. She's so calming, make sure that everything is perfect. Just like Dr. Harper, he wanted everything perfect. And now I feel so perfect in this region. It's awesome. So.
Oh, wow. We need to pull up Hayley's website as well so everyone can see her wonderful work.
She has samples up there too.
In a couple of places. Mm-hmm. And your studio is so amazing. I can't wait. I might have to film my stuff, just do a whole little segment on it, because like you said, the work you do is just amazing. And you have other tattoo artists that are in there, right? That are doing the same.
I do have one artist who's done a few. I'm the only one currently who's doing the realistic nipple and areola tattooing, but for some of the more creative designs, we definitely have artists who are well versed at working on scars and cover-ups in that way. We call those
breast adornment. Like I had, help me out, Dr. Harper, when they remove the skin from the back and bring it to the front. What is that?
The latissimus dorsi flap.
That's what I had. And the scar tissue from the back, it's, it just tightens up. And then you have the discoloration on the front half of that. Sure. How would you suggest that people who come to see you actually advocate for what is best? Like Benji ended up getting the 4 flap because she did not want the implant. You have people who do the other one. How do you think, what is best?
So, we all kind of have a reconstructive ladder, and I do not do free tissue transfer, which is known as autologous breast reconstructions. That's when you use your own tissues only, right? No implant, no nothing. And so I did a ton of those in training. Emory was a place where we did a lot of them. We got really good at it. It's actually where the procedure was developed. The tram flap, which was kind of the predecessor to the DIEP, the deep flap that Hayley was talking about, and then the stacked, which I'm presuming, if Benji didn't have anything taken from her tummy, she may have had an I gap or an S gap flap that was done where we can plug those vessels, because these are free flaps. I mean, they are taking tissue off with its blood supply and then reconnecting to a new blood supply so that those tissues will get blood and perfuse. And it's a very, very laborious surgery. It's a long surgery. It's typically a 2-surgeon surgery. And, my partner does not do them. So it doesn't make sense sometimes in the private practice world to do it. But, CMC, they do a ton of them. I mean, they do probably close to 300. And I felt like maybe it was Cassandra that was talking about, Dr. Lefebvre, Jean-Francois, I'm very good friends with. We go out to dinner. Like there's no competition, in our world. There's just like pretty much life. There's good people and bad people. So when the good people kind of come together, like we all, celebrate each other's work. And if I have somebody who fails an implant-based reconstruction, whether it's radiation or infection, and those things can happen, I text Jean-Francois Lefebvre and Nicholas Clavin, one of his partners, and I say, guys, I got somebody for you. And everybody over there is awesome. Michael Robinson, I mean, they're all really, really talented surgeons. And like, we have that at our disposal in the Charlotte community, right? Like, we are the largest city in North Carolina. We're like, we've got Atlanta 3.5 hours this way, Richmond 4.5 hours that way, but we're a really well thought of and well designed medical community here. So it's outside the realm of like, I can't fathom that people would make decisions and not be offered solutions to any problems that they could have. So, the 4 flap is, wow, like that's incredible. But I do not do the free flaps. I send those to other people. I let everyone know. But Michelle is like, what you can't tell with her sitting down, she's like 6 feet tall, 140 pounds, and looks like a model, right? But she had no extra tissue to reconstruct a breast of any volume. We would have had to like 9 flap her. Okay, so like that was not an option for her. And so for those patients, you have to tell them, like, you're either going to be really small breasted if we use a flap, or we can use an implant. And here are the pros and cons. What are you worried about? And that's what I ask so many people, like, what bothers you about an implant? And if there are understandable concerns, then you just kind of roll with it. And you're like, yo, I get it. Like, I understand it. And let's put you in the hands of somebody that's better at these surgeries than I am. But if they're like, falsehoods, or if they're rumor mill, or if they're just not right, then I use that as an opportunity to educate and to kind of put out the fires that are out there and let people know exactly what's right and what's wrong. And so the latissimus dorsi flap that you talked about is a salvage flap. Meaning it's your lifeboat. So if somebody fails implant-based reconstruction, if they're not a candidate for a free flap because they've had a tummy tuck already, or they've had other surgeries on their abdomen, or they don't have the amount of tissue necessary.
That's what they told me.
That's a great flap. I mean, we call it a lifeboat, because when all else fails, it's a very hardy, wonderful, it's a muscle-based flap. And the flaps that Benji had, there's no muscle involved. So this is a muscle flap that you then kind of swing around and bring underneath the armpit, and it can provide a lot of skin, a good skin feel for the patient. But, I think in my career, I've had 2 or 3 of the hundreds of reconstructions and hundreds of latissimus dorsi flaps that I've done. Maybe 2 or 3 also didn't include an implant. Like, even with free flap reconstructions and latissimus dorsi reconstructions, you can add implants to help with shape or volume after the fact. So those flaps, yes, are great for the volume, but what they're really bringing over is healthy skin. And that healthy skin will make Hayley's job that much easier also, because it's not radiated, and radiation is, it's a bear. I mean, I know that it's important to increase the survival of a lot of these cancers, but what the plastic surgery community is kind of up against now was a lot of really smart kind of marketing, right? I mean, when you used to watch your grandmother's mastectomy and the implants weren't as good, and we didn't have as great of tattoo artists, and we didn't have other kind of technological advances to make people look as beautiful as Michelle looks right now. Well, you had that in as one option, and then they come out and they say, you want that, or do you want breast conservation therapy? And you're like, how does that not sound better, right? But what is more appropriate to say is, do you want a partial mastectomy, a lumpectomy, with 100% need for radiation therapy that may or may not really make things go awry? And so what we've been able to do now that we've gotten better at breast reconstruction and the results are so much more beautiful is take these women that would have opted for, yeah, I want the breast conservation therapy. I'll do the lumpectomy and the 6 weeks of radiation. And like, that gives me the same survival rate as a mastectomy. Well, yeah, I want this. We're able to say, okay, but look at what you can get accomplished with a mastectomy and either an implant-based reconstruction or like Benji, an autologous breast reconstruction. And then there's no more monitoring, right? Like you've removed the breast tissue.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about whatever residual tissue is there turning into cancer at some other time because it's gone. I mean, after a mastectomy, you have reduced your cancer risk by 96%. So, I mean, that's pretty fantastic.
And I will say, any of the radiated tissue that I've worked on with the tattooing is you're more susceptible to cellulitis and other issues in healing.
Yeah. Well, Cassandra, what made you, and you're muted, so you got to unmute yourself, go ahead and work on the other side when you went there just for, to have the left one or the right one done? I can't remember which one.
Well, when I got my procedure done, the backstory to determining I had cancer was obviously I completed a breast reduction due to being very large chested. The tissue was sent to pathology, and boom, I had cancer. No clue. Mammogram didn't pick up anything. So I had already had work done on both breasts at that point. Dr. LaFlave, and I was one of those people who did not want an implant. However, he made it very clear to me that I was not a candidate for the deep surgery, which is what I wanted, because I was like, hey, I get a free tummy tuck. And he said, no, not all that is good. You don't have enough fat on your belly, you will be an A cup. And I was like, whoa. I don't want to be an A cup. So he had to do some things to both breasts to even them out. Hindsight is 20/20. Hindsight, I should have done a double mastectomy, and that is something that I have not taken off the table. But because I have one natural breast and one implanted breast, he did a phenomenal job to give me symmetry. And with Hayley's tattoo, it's amazing. But what she noticed, and I had not, was that because of the procedures to the natural breast, I had some discoloration around the areola. I mean, you look at your breast in so many different phases and stages of cancer. Like, I never even noticed that, but she immediately picked up on it and was like, hey, do you want me to go ahead and touch that up? And I was kind of looked down like, touch what up? I had no clue that there was some discoloration there. But when she showed me, I was like, oh, so that's what ended up, and she kind of worked on that one. And I told her, I said, well, listen, let's do that one first, because if we do the other one first, I'll back out on that one. So let's do that one first. So we did, and she went in and tweaked the natural breast and fixed the discoloration from some of the cutting and scarring. And then she moved over into the implanted breast. And, again, thank you, Hayley. You have given me completion, and I feel whole again as a woman. And, to Benji's point, I might not be a badass like she is, because that tattoo is amazing, but I definitely was walking around going, look, you just want to show it to everybody. Look. And, the men in my family were like, ugh, like, I don't want to see that. And I'm like, everybody saw it. It's okay. Look, how good it looks.
Hayley, do you see how many people you have touched? And I only have a few on, 3 of them, and plus Dr. Harper, who I'm going to definitely call. I hope you're awake, Ron. I know you might have a weight, but I'm going to get down.
You want a plastic surgeon with a weight, Regina. You just like your tattoo artist, you don't want them to just kind of be like, yeah, come on in. Nobody's in line. Yeah, you're good.
Walk-ins are welcome. No, thank you.
Right.
No, thank you. Well, Does anybody have a question for either Hayley or Dr. Harper or Michelle or Benji, even on our platform right here? I mean, I'm just, Benji, looking at the freestyle and how she did it, and that you're tattooed in every area that your flat was removed, and the fact that Cassandra, the first thing she did was send me pictures. Like, if somebody looked in our phone, they'd be like, "What is wrong with y'all?" Back and forth.
I would say, it really makes a big difference in what options a woman wants to have. If she's got starring that is very asymmetrical, Benji had small football on one side and the other big shape that you could see, that's a better choice to go with breast adornment, where we can really flow with those lines that are already there from the incisions and really try to cover those up. So I think, and I've had several women who go with the Areola Renewal route first and come back and add more artistic designs as well.
Well, I can't wait to get on your table, in your chair, in the open space, because like I said, everybody's seen everything, and now you're like, here you go, here it is. Well, guys, I want to thank you. We do have a couple of comments up here. Everybody's been saying how much you guys rock. You look beautiful, Benji. You are that badass. Hayley, your flow, and the artwork that you do is just so amazing. And Eugenia, she's also talking about more caring doctors like yourself, sending them to Hayley. I think if I seen a doctor with a tat with the sleeve, and you could say, "Hey, she did this for me," I'm like, okay. Because a lot of people, when you say you're going to go get a tattoo, they're like, "What?" It's like, yeah, they don't know that you're not done yet. You want to be what? Completed at the end, right?
Yeah.
You definitely want that. So I want to definitely thank my guests. I know we went over a little bit, but you guys rock, every last one of you. And I cannot wait to see you guys in Charlotte, which means, Cassandra, your guy kids are coming down. And I'm going to be down there in about 3 months. One of the people up here who is also a nurse, Erica Mack, was just saying that, your work is so amazing and everything that you do. But guys, if you want to check this out a little bit later, you can always find it on YouTube, Facebook, and I can't wait to have you guys back, because Michelle already talked to you. Benji already talked to you. Dr. Harper, I have not talked to you, but I'm going to talk to you later.
I was going to say, Dr. Harper, if you talk to Dr. Clavin, because he was my plastic surgeon, tell him I said hello. And that
I will. They're all really good friends, and they're great in the community, and they're also, free thinkers, and both asked me, who do you go to, and who do you send people to, and I told them Hayley, but her priorities still need to be with my patients.
Well, I'm going to go to Dr. Harper so I can be one of his patients, so I can get you to
I can get you to Hayley. I'm your avenue to Hayley. That's how you get to Hayley.
Hey, if you're willing to take me from Wake Forest, I'm coming on down.
Oh, we have patients all over the country that come in.
Oh, well, good.
All over the country. Yep.
Oh, well, I definitely will be down there. Oh, thank you, Talanya. Everyone has been so amazing on this. If you guys don't mind just sitting in the backstage for a quick minute while I close out the show, but I want to thank all my guests, from Hayley to Benji to Dr. Harper, Michelle, and Cassandra. You guys rock. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Regina. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and, hey, guys, this has been amazing. You really need to advocate for your surgeon, for your care. Understand that once it's all said and done, you want to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. And I used to tell Cassandra that I couldn't even turn on the lights. I was a new wife at the time. And again, I wanted to see what I used to see. And now they even look better. Now I'm going to see Hayley, and I'm going to Dr. Harper to get a tune-up, because he does everything. So check out their websites. You will find them down below. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Monday when we have our author on from Type A Guide to Cancer. Make sure you come check us out at 8 o'clock. And I promise I will not be muted at the very beginning. You guys have a good one. Remember, the glow doesn't define me. I define the glow. Have a good one. Bye.